In the early 1960s, American rock and roll had entered a quiet stretch. The initial explosion of the 50s had settled, and for teenagers stranded in small towns, the broader culture felt distant and completely inaccessible. Down in Gainesville, Florida, a young Tom Petty found an escape through the tiny speaker built into his family's car's dashboard. He memorized every lyric he could catch, convinced the AM pop stations were broadcasting directly to him. Then the British invasion hit. Groups from across the Atlantic suddenly dominated the airwaves, forcing American musicians to figure out how to respond to this massive, tightly harmonized sound. The domestic answer arrived in a very specific format, a 12-string Rickenbacker electric guitar. When Roger McGuinn used one to play the transcendent opening notes of the Byrds' Mr. Tambourine Man, it cut through the noise and gave American music a completely original texture. To kids listening on their transistors, the music carried a geographic stamp. Television and radio announcers constantly closed their programs with the exact same sign-off, from Television City in Hollywood. Hearing that signature sign-off daily transformed Los Angeles into a mythic destination, exerting a gravitational pull that drew an entire generation of musicians westward. When thousands of aspiring artists finally crossed the city limits, they found a reality that matched the myth. There was musical history and opportunity waiting on the pavement. At the center of it all was a nexus of AM radio titans. Stations like KFWB, KRLA, and 93 KHJ Boss Radio dominated the region's airwaves, commanding the daily attention of millions. The DJs spinning the tracks functioned as cultural organizers for the youth. Personalities like Casey Kasem brought drama, desire, and deep empathy to the microphone. To understand their physical reach, you only have to look at the annual Fan Appreciation Concerts. KHJ packed the massive Hollywood Bowl with an army of loyal listeners, charging just 93 cents a ticket to match their spot on the dial. By organizing these massive physical gatherings, the radio stations moved the rock culture out of the studio and directly into the streets. The invisible power of the airwaves materialized on the pavement of Sunset Boulevard, condensing into a network of crowded diners and loud, sweat-soaked nightclubs. One of the central hubs belonged to Marshall Brevitz. Like Petty, Brevitz had felt the pull from his home in Florida, eventually moving his club operation to Southern California at the direct urging of Frank Zappa. In March 1969, Brevitz secured a space at 7551 Sunset Boulevard, a building that had previously housed a 32-lane bowling alley. He called the new venue The Experience. To announce its arrival, he commissioned a giant, exaggerated portrait of Jimi Hendrix across the entire exterior. To get inside, patrons literally had to walk through Hendrix's open mouth. Inside that room, Brevitz hosted a staggeringly dense roster of heavyweights. On any given night, the stage belonged to groups like Alice Cooper, Joe Cocker, the Flying Burrito Brothers, and the New Yardbirds, who soon became known as Led Zeppelin. Walking past those painted teeth and onto the converted bowling alley floor was the ultimate initiation. It was a concentrated flashpoint where the raw power of the LA music ecosystem hit you right in the chest. Yet for all its intensity, the experience was incredibly short-lived. By December 1969, a mere 9 months after it opened, the club permanently shut its doors. This animation outlines the self-sustaining loop that defined 1960s Los Angeles. Small, chaotic physical clubs incubated the raw art. The massive AM radio titans instantly amplified those sounds nationwide, radiating a signal that pulled the next wave of dreamers straight back into the city. The short lifespan of venues like The Experience was a byproduct of a volatile and fast-moving creative peak, where sounds evolved faster than the businesses housing them. The physical walls vanished, but the concentrated energy of that 9-month run helped shift the center of the musical universe to Los Angeles.